in the lane so far? Perhaps the answer is just to call your jungler there and have an Anasik back on camping duty, but we'll see how the draft shakes out. Karthus banned once again for PVB, and Vega make their way back over to red side. Fengwu Buffalo did choose blue for this game.
I would like the adjustment to be you play hyper defensive in your side lanes and you just go back to what works for you, which is Noman's and a Nanasik. Noman's is kind of the best performing member alongside a Nanasik for this series. So team these guys up. Try to get something going there and then start moving out to those side lanes. Because obviously the 3v3 bot lane is not enough. Let's make it a 4v4.
Yeah, I mean, maybe give Boss a champion that he can give a little bit more. He's losing the Heck Room again here, but J4 and Silas will also be the bans away from Fengwu Buffalo.
And what's the priority pick going to be? Will the Sona Taric get through? That was quickly answered. We are playing Standard. We know we can beat you in Standard. You will play Standard with us.
There's Kai'Sa also banned away, so Big Korra going to have to show us something else here.
So Akali has slipped through the bans. Jace has slipped through the bans. There's a lot of different priority picks. I expect it to be something like a Jace.
Also Aurelia, which has been quite popular so far this series. Ryze, another champion. There's lots of, again, very strong champions you can take here. First one is actually Galio, I believe.
So Jace was hovered before going for the Galio. After the performance that Palette has put up specifically on that champion, constant multi-person taunts, I think it's safe to say why he would get a priority pick like that.
Yep, again, been super good. I think a champion that a lot of teams will be happy to first pick here in this position.
Super good.
So there is Rek'Sai, the next pick there again. Nanasik sticking to a pretty solid champion and a nice takeaway from Meliodas as well.
I also think that this is, frankly, a check on Vega. Like, the fact that you have the option to grab either the Jace or the Galio and you go for the Galio, you're basically looking at Vega Squadron and you're saying, you don't play Jace. You won't grab this. We can get this later on if we want it.
That's
yes!
Meliodas just flashing the Sejuani, but there is the Tahm Kench you asked for, Froskurin.
They know!
We're halfway there.
It's Ezreal Tahm Kench, Reveris Tahm Kench, or Ashe Tahm Kench. This is not going to be about laning. This is about PvE. We're just here to farm the minion wave, and we're getting the hell out of dodge. Get the hell out of this bot lane.
Does that mean Sivir comes into the conversation now as well? There's Akali locked in for Fengwu.
It all works.
It's a nice thing about Tahm Kench in a lot of ways. Feels like sometimes it all works. As long as you don't want to interact with your opponents meaningfully in a 2v2, Tahm Kench is a great champion at that.
That's why I play League of Legends. It's so I don't have to interact with people.
I have seen you play. You are certainly a simple player, as there is Lucian picked up for Fengwu. It feels like they're picking to really, like, Early game's been good. They really want to stomp through these lanes.
This is PVB having the confidence. They know that they can end this in the lane phase. That's Lucian Galio. That's a devastating level 3. That is one of the most disgusting level 3s in the game in terms of TV2s. And again, we saw the Jace being hovered doesn't lock it in. So I think this is one of those big holes. Vegas Squadron, they don't flex the Sylas, they don't play the Sylas, and they are not playing the Jace either.
I mean, again, it would just be comfort here for Boss. Back to Aatrox here with the Heck Room ban. I believe it's his second most played on the year.
It is a comfort pick for him, yeah.
And then Zeros will lose his Fiora, but he's got plenty left in that bag of tricks, including the Akali they already have locked in.
So already from the first 3 picks from both sides, we said that Fengwu Buffaloes, that they're just going to sucker punch you in the lane phase. They have a lot of assassination potential. They have a really scary bot lane. On the other side, Vegas Squadron, it feels like they're setting up for a top camp. That they got Boss his comfort champion. Depending on how they pinch the top lane pool, they can try to really exploit that matchup up there. And since you have a Tahm Kench, it's like Gadget Santas, you're on your own. Godspeed, good luck.
And in that case, if you're PVB here, do you take, say, LeBlanc away from No Man's, which they've done already in the draft? Or do you actually take the Ezreal away and say, play something with a lot less safety? Because if PVB do want to punish through their bot lane, taking Ezreal is a way to make that even easier. In fact, they ignore both those champions and ban away the Heimer.
I mean, I agree with you. I think by taking away the Ezreal, then you can force to try to break the tower. You know, it's much easier to get a hold of a champion that isn't the likes of Ezreal, but maybe, again, this is just a tester. Do you play it? Are you comfortable picking it up? Because we know that you're comfortable with Heimerdinger.
Doesn't play it this tournament. Certainly, I can tell you that much. Has not played it so far. MSI 2019. Jace was also the other band there for Vegas, so Zeros loses that option, and it will be Tahm Kench Ashe.
So a pretty stock standard bot lane, again, not the Lucian Braum, but definitely taking the other side of that. So the thing is that Ashe and Tahm Kench can fight for priority. You do have great pushing power right there, but I expect that Santas and Gadget will be playing a much more utility-oriented bot lane. So it's still nice to break that bot lane to start unlocking some of these semi-global ultimates like the Ashe Arrow and the Abyssal Voyage, but when are they going to break them?
Well, they have Ryze there, so
I don't think he'll do that.
I would say that it looks like Zeros will be collecting the Akali, but of course we'll wait and see. Plenty of flexibility there for Fongvu. And, you know, Pal having some fun. Flashing the Shaco, flashing the Sedge, and of course, oh, they lock it in. Okay.
So a much more traditional composition from PvP. It has the ability to play a 5v5 if this turns into team fights. It has the ability to play onto the side lanes with the likes of the Akali and the Ryze, as well as multi-teleports. And really good big front lines with the Galio and the Sejuani. Everything that you want in a team comp, PvP got it with that.
Yep. Vega also playing pretty standard here in this one. Last pick, Orianna, goes over there to No Man's. Already saw Null play the champion in this series, game 1.
Okay, so this feels like it's about wave priority and just controlling the mid lane. Respect from No Man's that he's not taking the TP, that he has the cleanse, so expecting that this could be a hard camp on mid if he's not careful there. So needs to be able to walk out of that route. But I want Boss and Ananasik to team up. I want this Aatrox and this Rek'Sai to start popping off on the top side of the map.
Because if the other thing happens, and the Sejuani and the Akali start doing the same thing, feels like the game will get pretty quickly out of hand.
I also think there's an opportunity that Ananasik can just try to contest Meliodas himself. Maybe this Rek'Sai wants to get up in the Sejuani's face because Akali early lane phase can be quite fragile. You know, she needs a couple of levels before she feels really free kind of fighting back.
And this is what we saw. I mean, we've seen this matchup already in this series. We're actually getting the inverse matchup now with Meliodas on the Sejuani, which is, you know, traditionally kind of the slower, more controlled jungler that isn't interested in getting particularly aggressive versus someone like Rek'Sai. So I'm curious to see if Meliodas does actually play a bit more conservative, or is just going to be like, you know what? My laners are going to be there for me. I'm going in.
For me, it's all about how Meliodas plays around the information that his laners are able to acquire for him, and just, it feels like he's always making the right decisions, especially for this series. So I'm all aboard something like a Sejuani that has the option, can go for the skirmish because of her potential burst damage early on, or maybe just wants to path around, scout out for his laners, and see in the team fights.
And I think that's a great thing to highlight, because we look at these early games going so well for Fongvu in this series, and you think, man, they're just pretty good players. And that's true, they are strong players. But I think so much of why Fongvu Buffalo have been good at early game this tournament is because of Meliodas and his pressure and the information that he gives the team. Because it's one thing to just outplay your opponent and hope it works. It's another to actually get the information and then make a calculated outplay.
I mean, frankly, at this Champions tournament, mechanics are just the bench line. You must have mechanics to be able to participate, to ride this ride. So we know that Fongvu Buffalo have that in spades. What else do they have?
Well, we'll see what happens, because if they win this game, they are through to top 6, into the main stage, into group stage of MSI 2019. And they'll go from one hometown to another, moving on to Hanoi if they can make it work here. They certainly have the crowd behind them, but they need to seal one more win in this best of 5.
And that's why, you know, I'm okay kind of giving away some of the down and dirty League of Legends that we've seen from the Buffaloes today. It feels like when you do have that crowd behind them that is so loud, that maybe you get a little bit hyped up, you get a little bit over-eager, you want to kind of flex or have that swagger, as we said. So I think that we can forgive some of the bloodlust. And
it's looked relatively, I don't know if discipline's a word you should use too often when talking about Fongvu Buffalo, because they go from 0 to what's going on very quickly. But I think they have shown just a really, you know, strong, solid set of gameplay today. And yes, you know, Zeros in particular has done his thing and maybe gone overboard once or twice, but for the most part, it's been working out, and it just feels like they're outclassing their opponents in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but my eyes right now are going to be on Meliodas and Ananasik for this early game pathing. It feels like every single game we do have something that is interesting. Meliodas has gotten the better in terms of Ananasik's jungle pathing, but Ananasik has done better in the early gank stage, I feel, for the first 3 games we've had here. No
Man's also doing some nice work there. Hit level 2 and harassing down Null. We did see Ananasik throw red buff straight to this crab. So wanted to make sure to get that first. And it looks like maybe full clear here for Meliodas, at least for now. Although he is going to skip Wolves.
And Pineapple here on Rek'Sai can look for the double crab because he can cut across his mid lane since No Man's has priority. So that's going to feel really nice. Whereas, like you're saying, Meliodas probably taking it safe, recognizing that he doesn't have priority where he wants it. This is curious, though. Spotted out his Raptor camp and then slowly went to his red.
Yeah, I kind of like what No Man did there, using that pressure, just threw a ward over the pit.
I think this is Meliodas trying to read what the pathing would be from Pineapple here.
Well, that hook shot's nice there from Gadget. You talked about utility. Now Ananasik here with the red buff, just going to take it down. Really, really like this pathing from Vega.
And you could tell that both junglers knew what was going to happen. Love that Ananasik pulled the trigger on that and finally said, no, I am not getting 3-buffed again. It is you who will feel my wrath. But when Meliodas popped over to his Raptor camp, he probably suspected, okay, it's probably a mid lane cross into double scuttle. This guy can contest me at red. Maybe I can burn it down fast enough. So felt like a heads-up play from both junglers. In the end, though, Vega Squadron, again, off to a very early jungle start.
Yep, Rek'Sai, the more aggressive champion, plays the more aggressive route and is rewarded as he pre-seeks the wave, just to help Nomanz keep up the pressure that he's built for himself. Meliodas still only level 2, did take the walls, but it wasn't enough to gift him over the XP. And now Ananasik gonna see if any camps or junglers are available. No Gromp right now, but might be spawning in a few. Probably not, though. So at least he's just going to check out and get the info, but there's no jungle at all to really clear.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of pathing issues like that where I'm like, Ananasik should have just assumed and then gone back to his jungle. He doesn't place any wards. Maybe there's a possibility that he looks for a dive, but you're against the likes of an Akali who has access to the Shroud as well as the Flash, so you want to respect that at least early on when all these champions are quite squishy. But he does lose, you know, a bit of the tempo that he got by stealing away that red buff by peeking in and looking at that top blue side jungle.
Well, it was briefly a 2-level lead, but with the Krugs now being finished off by Meliodas, there's only a 1. But now the rest of his blue side jungle will be started by Ananasik, so Meliodas really only one thing left to do, it's try and gank a lane.
Will be spotted out by a ward as he comes around this corner, though, as Santas trying to get back in position, back to safety.
Wave pushing in, so no need for Gadget and Santas to do anything crazy. And Meliodas actually going to see that the blue has not been started, and Ananasik does finish off the Gromp. Don't know if Meliodas knows this has happened here. Ananasik going to sneak over. Level advantage, pops over. Santa's also roaming around, so does seem like Vega happy to fight here. Tongue Lash lands for the slow. Flash knock up there from Ananasik. Meliodas flashes, but still getting bitten down. The tongue is good, and that's first blood to Vega.
And just a complete misread there from Meliodas. Big Koro and Pallet were not rotating over. Maybe if the Galio and the Lucian had joined him with that invade, as well as Null pulling the trigger on the TP in the mid lane, maybe that play looks better. But kind of a strange desync from the bottom side of the map for PvP. We don't normally see that.
And for the good things continuing there for Vega, not only do they get first blood and a lead in jungle, but Nomanz actually gets a pretty early blue here. So I think the other player, aside from the jungler that we looked here for Vega to maybe have a strong game, having an early blue will help you, and at least he's doing his job of pushing out the lane to give Rek'Sai some room.
Yeah, Spawn and Medic were talking about this the other day on their cast. I'll hold the point though, because Meliodas now looking top.
Yeah. Onto boss. No ulti here for the Aatrox, but just Umbral dashes away, and that's all she wrote on that play.
But look at what is happening underneath him. That blue buff, the fact that Orianna has the priority, allows Ananasik to constantly get underneath like here and just cause hell for Meliodas. This guy is just going to be very disruptive in the jungle and constantly challenging him. Level 5 to level 3 between Rek'Sai and Sej.
And Ananasik unfortunately does not check for the Gromp, but he knows now that he can just go ahead and get him off. It would be a smite fight for it. Does go over to Meliodas, but still has to worry about potential engage. Null also very low. Noman's trying to find it. Forces a flash there with the Q.
Could be something to punish later on as Meliodas maybe getting a little bit greedy for this wolf camp right now.
I'm not sure he should be here. Does still have his smite though.
He does feel confident because it's the tower that's behind him, and it's not like Noman's at this stage is going to walk through the tower aggro, but it does start to feel like between a rock and a hard place, especially because like you're saying, Ori with blue, she's always going to have the priority in this lane now because she has the mana to expand, and it's going to lead to Ananasik blitzing into Meliodas' face.
And Noman's off to a great start, almost 20 CS ahead. Came into lane with double Doran's ring and really made Null pay by burning the flash. He'll return to lane and pick up some CS for himself as Zeros getting aggressive, dashes back towards his Shroud though. Just playing with boss for a little while.
Meanwhile down bottom, looks like the Tom Kench and the Ashe have paid off. You know, no one's died, which it feels like in the previous games people were dying at level 2, level 3, so we've at least survived that mark.
Also with the build toward a Cutlass now completed for Gadget, going for the play of the Ruined King first. Feels pretty safe, although it does have to be careful without the TK around. Now Santas does return to the lane.
This is also one of the classic tricks from PVB's bot lane. They love using rush and kind of like different back timers to make sure that someone like Pallet, who when he has a champion like Galio, disappears into Fog of War, kind of makes you forget about him. Maybe you suspect, but he just sits there so patiently and then try to abuse it with a flash taunt.
VEG just keeping the wave here. We'll now push it back out of the way. Does make it to tower, but should be able to get most of these here on the Ashe. So it looks like, again, just a push out and then moving back around the map for the PVB duo. Zeros also returning as the wave crashes in towards the top lane. But nothing too crazy right now. It is just that first kill. Vega, I think, should be very happy with this pace of game.
And I agree with you. This feels good to celebrate for Vega because, you know, again, not everything's on fire right now. You're surviving the lane phase where traditionally you just getting blown out of the water previously. But if you look at the composition, that still doesn't feel as good. You know, PVB on the other side are just as happy to play a slow lane phase. They have superior scaling options, you know, pending like a massive shockwave or like a huge wombo combo of like shockwave into Aatrox to win fights.
No, Zeros actually caught in the chain, so we'll disengage there. Zeros was maybe thinking about an all-in. Vega, though, feeling strong enough here on the bottom half of the map to take this very early Infernal Drake. So just under 9 minutes, they'll pick that up.
Oh, best dragon spawn they could have asked for. Double back-to-back Infernal when they have the push power.
And No Man's again continuing to play up towards Null's turret. Null does have blue this time around and is gaining levels, so a little easier for him to try and clear this out, but still Orianna pushing down, looking for a second plate.
And the issue that PVB is waiting on is, yeah, they're happy to sit in their lanes and to farm up because eventually they'll just outscale this game with the composition, but they're waiting for Meliodas to have access to level 6. He's been tracked very well by an Anasik, so hasn't found his opportunity. Once he has that ultimate, it's much easier to try to break some of these lanes by ganking through the lane instead of trying to gank through the river, which Anasik has controlled.
Well, for the first time what feels like a while, Meliodas actually towards the top lane, but maybe just covering for a potential gank there as No Man's the one to watch here alongside the jungler. Null going to be the target. No flash there. Shockwave is going to land. The knockup follows and a beautiful dive there from Vega.
Very well tower aggro juggled right there. The fact that they traded it off, it's just, I believe, 3 shots total between the two members and punishing the flashless Rise.
No Man's continues to get gold, going to collect even more plates for himself, and the gold lead's actually 2,000 up for Vega, and that's with no towers being killed just yet. There's all that early kill got and the plates to watch this again.
Yeah, taking another look at it, you can see that Null, he was trying to run as quickly as he could to get on the outskirts of that shockwave, but just picture perfect there.
Nicely done. Last chapter now finished as well. We'll get even more plate gold, so the third one falls as Meliodas just trying to clear these minions out. Does get all of those, including the cannons, so that feels pretty good, but now No Man's getting his blue buff again.
But that's the big winner, is the fact that Meliodas actually gets to farm in the mid lane, now has access to level 6. So the Sejuani ultimate is there, and we were talking about how ganking through River is so hard because he'll be spotted out so early with all of the vision control from Vega Squadron. But with the Sejuani ult, you can just run up the lane, toss out the ult, and see what you get.
Well, certainly if we want to use early games as the measuring stick for this series, much better for Vega. First 2 kills on the board, have that first Infernal, and get it up in CS.
Oh, finally, we did it! No, I like the call. I think that if we get to game 4, that Tahm Kench Ashe is really the way to go. Just stop fighting them in the lanes.
And Tahm Kench certainly a champion at enabling that sort of situation. Meliodas still trying to stay active. PVB maybe feel like they have enough strength on the top side to fancy a Rift Herald, but nice hawk shot there from Gadget as they actually are swapping up for now.
Yeah, but it's being called, I believe, depending on where Big Kuro goes, which he's running at mid because he's waiting until his team has full information before he makes the choice. Do I join you at Rift Herald or do I go bottom? But it's a completed item for Lucian and just the components for Gadget.
Well, that back may actually turn the tide here for PVB, who have brought almost everyone up here. Zeros notwithstanding, who's actually going in for the swap and moving into the bottom lane.
I think this is actually really dangerous for PVB. The fact that you're dealing with really key ultimates this early on in the game, like the Shockwave as well as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, I like the call to just say they can have this one. It's not worth walking into an area that we were already late to rotate to.
Yep. And again, Vega were there first. They got set up for Vision. They have the Speed Shrine. So that's going to be Rift Herald over to Vega Squadron.
Finally feels like we got the calm, collected, controlled game that Vega Squadron really need to showcase that they can be competitive in this best of 5.
Big Kuro again, gonna meet Gadget there. And Zeros almost up to the Gunblade, doing decently there, although a little bit behind in gold.
Big gold difference, though, is between those two junglers. That is 50 to 77, and Anasik is just schooling Meliodas this game.
Yep, gonna pop the Rift Herald as well, so No Man's is gonna cash in even more turret plates. will get the first turret gold and the plates over to himself as well. So this Orianna also has so much gold built up.
And opening up the map like that is so pivotal when you have the Ashe and the Tahm Kench. We're gonna
walk through there. Okay, Meliodas, saw it coming.
It's a big tank line.
Whenever you see multiple people walk through a choke point next to an Orianna, have to hold your breath for a second.
You just clench.
No level 11 just yet for Ori either. No man's not far off though. Plate's gonna go over. Caster creep. Not enough. It's like one little wizard spell away from that caster creep for giving the plate over. So Gadget and Sanders will keep the push up now.
Just a stiff breeze comes by, knocks it over.
Pallet back up here to join the 2v2. As Meliodas again just getting consistently harassed in his jungle. Loses his red buff again.
He's getting ripped around the map, and we're starting to see big discrepancies between the lanes, not just in the CS, but mostly in the experience, particularly that mid lane, level 9 to level 10. No Man's is a big deal right now, closer to that level 11.
Big Crow a little bit low, but they are going to start the fight off here. Culling popped, Ignite down onto Gadget as well, but not enough to get the kill there. They'll stay safe.
There's one rule, guys. We don't fight.
And hey, they obeyed your rule and it works out. In fact, Infernal even up here means that they have the presence, they have the pressure to take their second Drake in a row.
Teaming up with No Man's and Ananasik, I was just talking about this Orianna, level 10, that much closer to level 11. As soon as she gets it, which she got it right there, now No Man's and Ananasik are very scary for this ball delivery system. So I want to see how Vega Squadron continue to open up this map and really try to abuse the utility of their bot lane with that Ashe arrow.
And look, the first, kill or two was okay, good job, you're like making a game of it, kind of slowing things down. At this point, they're actually really far ahead. I mean, these are comparable gold leads to what PVB were delivering in the last few games. Meliodas looking for something, but a cleanse from No Man's makes that a non-factor.
Yeah, walks out of it. It's going to be now another repeat. Maybe you attempt that gank again on No Man's, but I was actually looking at this. Who does Meliodas actually pick to try to gank with the Sejuani ultimate? When you're against a Tahm Kench, I'll hold it.
Gadget flashes, Pallet follows, and that's going to be the first kill over to Feng Vu.
Force him to guess. Don't flash early and tell him exactly where you're going to go.
And as you said, goalers don't fight. Unfortunately, Tahm Kench not there to save the day. So that is Gadget falling down and giving the first kill over to the VCS representative. Big Corey now. And that Blade going to try and push down and get a bit more turret damage done. But as you can see, 6 plates and 0 versus 0 means almost 1,000 extra gold given over to Vega.
Still a lot more power stacked into this Vega Squadron lineup, especially as Orianna now starting to cheat up towards the bottom lane. Without Sejuani ultimate, Vega should feel really confident that if PVB hung around there, that they would look for the fight.
Yeah, No Man's had the rank 2 ulti, has the Luden's already done with an extra blasting one plus the Sork shoes, so good position here for No Man's to take over this game alongside his jungler that's had another good game. Again, we talked about these teams in both their groups. When they had a lead, they really just ran away with the game for the most part. So this is finally Vegas time with a pretty substantial lead in the early game. So the question now is, can they run away with the game?
We're also going to see what PVB look like playing from a back foot and if they can actually turn that into a victory. Because anytime they fell behind Team Liquid, it was basically just watching them run into the wood chipper.
Well, not what you want to see if you're a fan of the home team. PVB again would like to finish off the series right now. Ananasik to ulti, maybe a little too far forward. He's Tahm Kench gonna save the day. Flashes away to the tunnel. That would have been fine just in case.
I'm a little bit scared about this choice of where you're going to play on the map right now. Yes, Ananasik is very strong, but his bot lane just hasn't counted it for him. I feel like he needs to be prioritizing boss and No Man's, and that if this Rek'Sai is going to make a play, he needs to look left and right, and as long as Orianna and Aatrox are there, that's fine. If it's just Tahm Kench and Ashe, don't make that play.
You see Zeros also knowing that he's getting pressured a little, so with No Man's off the map, although he's back to mid now as we can see, Zeros just gives up the turret and decides to give a bit of extra gold over to boss. And PVB again just definitely picked a comp that's a bit slower, fallen behind in the early game thanks to the efforts of primarily Vega Squadron's jungler. So a little happier perhaps to sit back and play slower with this comp, but not the kind of deficit you think of, even when you're picking something that's not quite as high tempo as it has been in the first 2 games.
They still need to be really respectful of Vega Squadron. Yeah, probably in comms right now, PvP are like, it's fine, play scale, we're playing for farm right now, we're just trying to create safe opportunities, and then if someone overstays their welcome, then we look for punish. Maybe it's this bot lane. But they probably aren't thinking, hit the panic button, there's a possibility we lose this game because there's still so many options left for them as the composition continues to scale up.
Certainly not out of reach by any means. Zeros dancing back in onto Boss. Will he commit the ulti? Will look for the stun, but doesn't land it. Still gets Aatrox ulti out of there. Oh, missing that E. Might have been it there for Zeros, but unfortunately ulti times out and he uses the second charge and Boss walks away safely.
And we're kind of in this lull where there's not a lot of obvious objectives for either team to play around. This would be interesting. There is TP for Boss, so he could TP back into this lane.
Very long lane for Zeros to try and run out of, and he already used his ulti. Does have flash.
He's actually
Shroud though.
He's watching. He's walking back.
No, is it going to try it? I think you have to go for it. You stayed down here long enough. Now Zeros sees what's up. Prayseeker misses. Zeros going to flip away. That's going to be enough to get him out.
I'm not sure about that one.
It looked very scary.
I'm a little bit lukewarm, I think.
Zeros gets out of it. This time actually stays in the bot lane. He's pretty confident, and Nanasik has walked away from his lane. No Man's though actually in the side lane right now versus Big Koro. Zeros apparently decided that he wants to fight again. Oh, he has his jungler, of course. Although that's Tom Kent.
He's got more than a jungler.
Zeros in. Oh, gets knocked up. The arrow is going to miss him. But there's Santa going in. Pallet roams in as well with his ulti. Flash not committed. Noldo commits for the flash route, but it's still 4v4. Vega walking back towards their turret now. Maybe they can turn tail and try and get the fight turned around for themselves. Pallet locked up in the chains is going to get caught up and killed.
They've overextended, and Orianna is running behind them.
Yep, no, Realm Warp not going to work. That's Gadget grabbing their next kill. And here's No Man's going to cut them off with the Shockwave. Oh, it looks so good. Finds the Shockwave, gets one and a flash. Meliodas fail flash. And that's going to give the kill over to Rek'Sai. Vega are really coming alive.
Hope is alive for this Vega squadron in game number 3 right now. They got the minion wave behind them. They even grabbed the aggro, so the minions are going to survive just a little bit longer, but immediately punish the overreach there from PVB and shove down the tower.
PVB, for the first time, almost all tournament, look very passive in this game. I mean, yes, you have to play, knowing that you're behind, you have to play with respect, but they're almost giving them too much at this point.
I don't know if that was respectful, though, Patient. They, TP'd and threw everything down. No, I agree with you. It's been, slower, but as soon as they thought that they had an inch in, they decided to try to take the fight. But the ability for Vega Squadron's composition to disengage from the initial attempt here was what really punished them. So it felt like who was going to win in this 1v1? Boss and Zeros have been going at it all game long, but Tahm Kench actually just means so much.
I was going to say, we talked about the power of Galio and his globals as Noel jumps in here. And this is kind of what spelled disaster here for PVB, because now you cannot run.
Yeah, good positioning by Gadget as well. I like the fact that he doesn't immediately commit. He's just there to, again, provide that utility and help his team walk them down. But it's Boss and Santos that were kind of leading the charge.
Yeah, Boss's confidence on Aatrox also showing. He got 2 very nice knockups there to basically get those 2 kills. And then Meliodas, slight mechanical error. Probably would have died anyway, but you can see the fans not happy.
I'd like to point out that guy in the middle space.
Well,
that was
kill, so Santa's dead's nice. Gadget though will live. Finally, PVB finds something on the scoreboard. But again, I think, it's funny that, you mentioned it a few times, but Tahm Kench is a big difference maker. When you're playing against a team that wants to be aggressive, he diffuses all that, and you're able to match global power and just move to fights as quickly as PVB are willing to start them.
And Gadget and Santos have experience playing with this pick. It's not something that's completely out of the wheelhouse or out of the blue for them. So I'm curious why it took so long for them to grab hold of this. It felt like, sometimes you just have to put up the white flag. You just have to say, this one's probably on me, guys. I can't beat these guys. We tried to go toe-to-toe. It didn't work, so let's just play defensive. Let's change the game plan. And I'm glad that it finally happened for Vega Squadron. But the question is it too little too late?
Perhaps, but it would be funny if the smallest change in draft is the one that makes the biggest difference for a team that has shown us so many creative drafts throughout the tournament. Still, PVB did grab a kill. They're woefully behind still at 6,000 down. But PVB will make a go of this game. I don't think they'll go silently into this good night.
But I really like the Vega Squadron are forcing them to group up. So they're not giving them a lot of space or time to play around these side lanes. They're saying, hey, our comp is really strong right now when we are grouped up around how strong No Man's and Ananasik is. Let's just force it down, PVB. Let's take what we want and not give them the opportunity to trade cross-map on objectives.
And that decisiveness was what got PVB into such good positions and made them such quick games in the first two, so Vega certainly have the ability to show similar strength here. Don't want to play too slowly. Much like Goldilocks has to be just right. Even when you have a lead, you don't want to wait too long.
The classic lukewarm.
Gadget found himself some minions to arrow down. Certainly have to think that Baron is in the forefront of both these teams' minds.
Isn't it a completely different game when Vega Squadron have tempo and control? Like, it just... PVB, they're in control, there's kills, everything's all across the map, it's very scrappy, it's happening very quickly. And I just love the fact that, again, Vega Squadron chose not to play into that and finally said, let's play our game. Let's try to see if we can force this team to be responsive to us.
And so far, so good. Again, building a big lead. They have the run of Drakes right now, including 2 Infernal. Have a Cloud coming up in a minute 32 to add a potential 4th to their collection.
Yeah, double Infernal in a Mountain is always going to feel good, especially when you have a Bork on an Ashe.
No Man's also rapidly approaching item number 3. Zera still trying to find his foothold in a 1v1, but with the ulti up and not much vision, Zeros can't really overcommit there.
And that's the key thing there, is that he knows that he's got the foothold. He can kick Aatrox when he is down right now. He's taking very short trades before he's looking for the all-in, whittling him down and kind of buying his time, but it's not having that perfect information, knowing that an Abyssal Voyage could really ruin his day.
Again, you have to play with so much more respect when there's a global that can make it happen. Ulti finds Meliodas there. Arrow is good, and that's a kill for a Nanosic. And
it's just that easy. Throwing the arrow from Fog of War, you can see all of the vision control that Vega Squadron have gotten. They've basically had priority over this mid lane since minute 1 in this game, especially with the early transfer of that blue buff, and it hasn't let up. And now that's a Mountain, double Infernal, and such easy Baron access.
Oh, No Man's running interference. Really nice there again. Orianna so good in these choke points leading up to Baron. Null is here. Vega actually are going to commit that. Zeros keeping straight into the pit. Gets out, has to use charge 1 of the ulti already, though Baron is low. I don't think they can get it. That will be over to Vega. Smite is good. Zeros forced to get out. Boss is a little low, but he still has his ulti. So Zeros is going to get chased down. He's slowed. He flashes into Nanosic. Unstoppable just gets an easy kill.
Everyone is flashing into a wall from PVB. These are mechanical missteps left, right, and center here. And here comes Vega.
Knock up into the shockwave. That's a kill for Gadget. And they're not going to get off the map. Maybe they thought reset after that 1 kill on the Baron, but with another one now, just go straight for the objective.
And that's 2 key members there, especially the Ryze, who's your primary source of wave clear, that are dead and down. You have the wave and the Baron behind them. I'm curious how confident Vega are going to feel in this push. Maybe they push for an inhib.
If you turn the names off, I assume that Vega are actually Fongwu Buffalo, given how the series has played out. They're basically doing exactly what has been done to them in these first 2 games, just making it look almost effortless.
And it feels like Vega Squadron finally found the blueprint. It wasn't about playing standard. It wasn't about playing cheese. It was about playing slow, about trying to control this team. Team Liquid managed to dismantle PVB when they were able to slow down the game. Don't buy into these guys. Don't get scrappy with them.
And again, I mean, this is desperation here for PVB. They have to try something, but you don't have a jungler. You can't really force a team fight, so they get the Baron, and then it's just inevitable here to get a couple kills at least.
And you have to think that this is just a massive mistake, not just the obvious ones that you see on your screen about flashing into walls, but, you know, why are you expending your teleport? Why is PVB even looking into that pit? You're not going to get the smite contest. You don't have vision control. You decided that you weren't going to take the 5v5. You could have held on to those summoners. You could have held on to your lives and tried to trade the Baron time for at least some gold.
And I present this gold graph as a visual representation of this game's narrative. It's just been a very calm, steady snowball for Vega Squadron.
And now it's about if they can just crescendo on top of it. Feeling confident. They've got everything behind them. We've seen maybe some nerves at play for Vega Squadron. When they did have leads against the Flash Wolves, it took them a very long time to close that game out. I want something a bit crisper here. You have the muscle, now use it.
Have to agree, but Vega's still working on these structures. They've already got 1 inhib. They took the top after that Baron. Boss is working with the Baron up minion wave there for the bottom inhibitor turret, and of course the rest of the team in the mid. So really clean stuff so far there for Boss. Nice double knock up there as well. Clearly knows his way around this champion. Zeros getting low, he's poked off. That's actually an ulti in from Rek'Sai. It's an assassination! Rek'Sai just leaps in there, And PVB forced back to their Nexus. Boss pops the ulti, walks up. Sanders in the belly of the Tom Kent stays safe, and this is going to be carnage here. I have to think so. Boss pops the world ender, still trying to dive under the turret. Vega trying to give them a taste of their own medicine straight into the base and back to the turrets.
Yep, but now they have a waiting creep wave for them as well as a cannon. They can continue this siege, and PVB are just trying to mount the defense right now, stop the bleeding.
Zeros down, 20 seconds up. Inhib gonna go over, tower falls in mid. Nomad's just putting in work. They're gonna try a realm walk here, but Vega walked out. Gadget very respectfully flashes.
They haven't gotten an inhib yet. Vega Squadron still need to complete the mission that they were sent here to do.
There's one in mid, and bottom lane should be finished off by a Nanosic.
There they
With
go.
the help of the Brown Up minions, so maybe stay a little while. Zeros is back up. PVB might try and find something here.
They have no Sejuani ultimate, so I like this window that Vega are abusing.
Yeah, they're trying to end the game. Gadget takes the first Nexus turret down. This is a deja vu from the last game. We saw Meliodas gonna get picked up by Nomads. What a snipe by the Orianna. And it feels like it's gonna be all she wrote for this game. I mean, PVB have to go soon. And even if they win the fight, it's only gonna potentially delay the inevitable. Vega are moving in for the kill. They'll find Null, they'll knock him up, they'll force a flash out of the way. Again, the Rex IO comes back up. They blow the Nexus open and exposed, and Gadget is just gonna put the last few arrows into their structure as Vega finally find themselves on the scoreboard.
And we finally have a series here. Vega Squadron, it took a couple of goes. They were trying to problem solve, kind of Rubik's Cube, how they're gonna deal with PVB, and I think we finally settled on a strategy. The problem is that when they figure out a strategy, it seems really easy to ban it away.